Hit the subscribe button above so we can bring you even more great audio tales, and don't forget to leave a comment to grab your free novel below. Loose ends. Brill Wingfield didn't believe in loose ends. That's why he was here, standing in the lobby of the Atlantic Grand Hotel, watching the revolving doors spin in slow motion. He'd been hired to tie up a problem for a politician with a secret life. The mistress had gotten greedy, threatened to go public. The politician had gone to the kind of people who could keep things quiet, the kind of people who hired Brill. He stood there, looking casual. A man in his late 30s, hair dark but starting to gray at the edges. His suit was tailored but didn't draw attention. His face was the kind people forgot. Eyes too. Everything about him was designed to blend in, to vanish. He scanned the room once, briefly. Then he walked to the elevators and hit the button for the 9th floor. The woman's name was Lisa Caldwell. Room 923. The hotel was swanky but impersonal. Plush carpets, expensive art on the walls, the kind that looked good but meant nothing. The elevator smelled like roses and fresh paint. He adjusted his cuffs, looked at his reflection in the mirrored walls. Just a man on his way to see someone. No need for anyone to notice him. He exited on the 9th floor. The hallway was empty. He moved left past a maid's cart, a stack of fresh towels. Reached room 923. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. He pulled a small tool from his pocket, slid it into the lock, felt the pins fall into place. The door clicked open. Inside, the room was dim, curtains drawn. The air smelled like expensive perfume. He stepped in, closed the door behind him. Listened. Nothing but the hum of the air conditioner. He moved forward, past the small entryway, into the main room. Lisa Caldwell was standing by the window. Blonde, late 20s. She was dressed in a tight black dress, hair pinned up. She turned when he came in, looked at him with calm, unreadable eyes. "I was wondering when they'd send someone," she said. Brill didn't respond, just watched her. She was too calm. No fear. No panic. That wasn't normal. "You don't seem surprised," he said. She shrugged. "I knew what I was getting into. I just didn't think they'd go this far." "They always go this far," Brill said. She laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Yeah, I guess they do." She moved away from the window, sat down on the edge of the bed, crossed her legs. The movement drew his attention. She was a knockout. The kind of woman men did stupid things for. The kind of woman men killed for. "So what now?" she asked. "You just do it and leave? Or do we have a little chat first?" Brill watched her. Something wasn't right. She wasn't acting like someone who knew they were about to die. "We talk," he said. "Lucky me," she said, smirking. Brill moved closer, stopped a few feet away from her, kept his hands loose, ready. "You knew this was coming," he said. "Why didn't you run?" Her smile faded. "And go where?" "They'd find me. They always do." She looked at him, something shifting in her eyes. "But you don't have to do this. You can just walk away." Brill didn't move, didn't react. She was playing an angle. He needed to know what it was. "Why would I do that?" he asked. She leaned forward slightly. "Because I have something. Something they don't want anyone to know." He waited. Let the silence stretch out. People hated silence. They always filled it one way or another. She was no different. "I have proof," she said, "of what he's been doing, of who he really is." Brill raised an eyebrow. "Who?" She shook her head. "You know who. The man who sent you here. The great senator." Brill stayed silent. He knew the senator, knew his reputation. A real piece of work. But he wasn't interested in politics. He was interested in getting paid, and keeping things simple. Proof doesn't mean much when you're dead, he said. She smiled again. A sad, weary smile. I'm not talking about a scandal. I'm talking about something much bigger. Something that could ruin him. And the people he works for. Brill frowned. This was new. This wasn't what he'd been told. He was supposed to take care of a loose end. A woman who'd gotten too greedy. This didn't sound like greed. This sounded like something else. Something dangerous. What kind of proof? He asked. She hesitated. Looked away. He could see her thinking, weighing her options. Enough to make them come after you too, she said softly. If they knew you were involved. Brill didn't like where this was going. He glanced around the room, looking for signs of a setup. But it felt wrong. This wasn't a trap. This was something else. Something real. Talk, he said. She took a deep breath. The senator. He's involved in something. Something big. Human trafficking. But not just any trafficking. They're taking people. Using them for experiments. Testing drugs, chemicals. People die, and no one asks questions because these people don't exist. Brill felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He didn't react. Just watched her. I was his cover, she continued. The pretty face. The distraction. But I saw things. I have files. Names, locations. If I go down, they go public. He can't let that happen. Brill considered this. It could be true. Or it could be a desperate lie. Either way, it didn't change his job. But it did complicate things. Where are the files? He asked. She shook her head. I can't tell you that. Why not? Because if I do, you'll kill me. And you'll never find them. Smart, he thought. She knew how to play the game. But she didn't know him. I'll find them anyway, he said. One way or another. She looked at him, something like fear flashing in her eyes for the first time. She believed him. You're not like them, she said quietly. You don't have to do this. Brill felt something stir inside him. Something dark buried deep. But he pushed it down. He didn't get involved. That was how you survived in this business. You kept it clean. You did the job, and you walked away. What's the play here? He asked. You want money. Protection. She shook her head. I just want out. I want to disappear. But they'll never let me go. Not unless. She trailed off. Looked at him with a pleading expression. Help me. Please. You're my only chance. Brill felt the weight of her words. The desperation. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't get involved. I can't help you, he said. But I can make it quick. You won't feel a thing. Her face went pale. She looked away, her shoulders trembling. He felt a pang of something. Guilt, maybe. But he pushed it down. I'm sorry, he said. Then he heard it. The faintest sound. The click of a door opening. He spun around just as the bathroom door burst open. A man rushed out. Big, with a shaved head and a tattoo on his neck. He had a gun in his hand. Brill moved fast, grabbing a lamp from the bedside table, hurling it at the man's face. The man ducked, fired a shot. The bullet went wide, shattering the window. Brill closed the distance, slammed into him. They crashed to the floor, the gun skidding away. Brill landed a hard punch to the man's throat. The guy gasped, clawing at his neck. Brill grabbed the back of his head, slammed it into the floor. Once, twice. The man went limp. Brill got up, breathing hard. Turned around. Lisa was standing by the window, eyes wide with shock. What the hell was that? He asked. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. I didn't know he was here. Brill glanced at the man on the floor. He was out cold, but he wouldn't be for long. This was a mess. A bad one. He looked back at Lisa. Who was he? He asked. She swallowed hard. He works for the senator. He was supposed to. He was supposed to kill me if I talked. Brill felt the knot in his stomach tighten. This was worse than he thought. He looked at the window. It was shattered, the sound of sirens faint in the distance. They'd be here soon. He turned back to Lisa. Where are the files? She hesitated. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out a small USB drive. Handed it to him. Everything's on there, she said. Names, locations. Everything. Brill took the drive, pocketed it. This wasn't his problem. But he couldn't just leave her here. He looked at the man on the floor. Then at Lisa. Let's go, he said. She looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. You'll help me. He nodded. For now. He grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the door. They had to move. Had to get out before things got worse. He didn't know what he was going to do. But he knew one thing for sure. There were loose ends. And he hated loose ends. Ready for more Shadowboxer? Grab your free copy of Conscripted, the Shadowboxer Files Book 1 in the series.